Hello and welcome to the Aussie Football Passport, your one-stop pod for updates on your favourite Aussie men and women who are playing their club careers abroad. I'm your host, Alex, and this week we have plenty of football to cover. Our under-20 lads kick off their World Cup campaign against Italy. There are award nominations for our ladies and plenty of goals, assists, and even a red card in Clubland this week. So let's get into it with the headlines. Headline time, and Steph, Catley and Holly McNamara have received nominations at the AFC Annual Awards, with Catley nominated for AFC Asian International Player of the Year, while McNamara is nominated for the AFC Women's Player of the Year. The award ceremony will take place on October 18th, and we will bring you the results in the coming weeks. Now, over to under-20 World Cup action, where young Socceroos head coach Trevor Morgan and captain Sebastian Esposito rued their team's missed chances against Italy in a performance with plenty of positives to open their World Cup campaign. Daniel Benny had the best of the chances for our boys, but unfortunately the QPR man didn't make the most of the opportunity presented to him by the opposition. The only goal of the match came from the penalty spot as a wonderful through ball sent Italian forward Matteo Mosconi through on goal, with Aussie keeper Stephen Hall bringing him down in the penalty area. Italian captain Matteo Manini converted the penalty and won his side the 3 points to start off the group stage. Our lads' next game is against Argentina on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch that on SBS and SBS On Demand, so don't miss that one. I know it's at a bit of an inconvenient time for those of us that are doing the 9 to 5 grind, but SBS On Demand will be your best friend. All right, now dropping down a age division to the under-17s and the Joeys, as they're nicknamed. Head coach Carl Viet, he's selected a 30-player squad for a domestic training camp to be held in Canberra. The squad is solely Australian-based, with the majority of the squad made up from players aligned with A-League academy clubs, along with a selection of talent playing at NPL or National Premier League clubs. 13 members of the most recent CommBank Joeys roster have been named in the squad, with the team previously in action when they travelled to China for the Hohhot Under-16 tournament. They faced Saudi Arabia, Vietnam and China in an invitational tournament and secured victories over Saudi Arabia and Vietnam. Australia will kick off its AFC Under-17 Asian Cup qualifiers on Monday, the 24th of November, with the Joeys opening its campaign against host nation Jordan. The group winners advance to the finals, and we will bring it all to you on this very podcast in just over a month's time. All right, that is it for the headlines. Nice, short and sweet this week. No transfer news, of course, as that transfer window has shut. So let's jump over to the weekly wrap. All right, weekly wrap time, and let's start with our ladies in the US&A, where it was a tough afternoon for the Portland Thorns, going down to Gotham FC 3-0. Yes, that is a real team. It's not some made-up Batman thing from those comics. Mackenzie Arnold played the full game in goal, while Caitlin Torpey came off the bench and got 6 minutes in that one. Now to Canada, where we did miss the return of Carly Johnson last week, but she continued her, return from injury. She was a second half substitute coming on in the 66th minute for Calgary Wild as they beat the Montreal Roses 2-0. So great to see Carly back on the pitch and continuing to build her minutes. Just in time for Matildas in their international window, which comes up at the end of next month. All right, let's head over to Sweden, where Jada Weimann started in goal for AIK and played the full game in their 5-2 loss to AV Luik's BK Häcken. AV played 68 minutes at centre-back. Kristianstad secured a late point against Malmo IF with the score finishing 1-1. Amy Sayer started and played the full game for Kristianstad, while her teammate Remy Simonson played 79 minutes. Courtney Nevin, she was a second half substitute for Malmo, playing 21 minutes. Now to England, where we had plenty of Matildas and soon to be Matildas, hopefully, in action. Alana Kennedy started and played the full game in the centre of defence for the London City Lionesses. That is a tongue twister. I apologise. In their 2-1 win over Crystal Palace in midweek League Cup action. She didn't play in WSL League action on the weekend, unfortunately. Claire Wheeler came off the bench for Everton in the second half in their 3-1 loss to Manchester City in League Cup action. She then backed it up on the weekend, starting and playing the full game as her side suffered another defeat, this time to Brighton and Hove Albion, 1-0 in the WSL or League action. Charlize Rule, she played 68 minutes for Brighton, who are, of course, coached by Aussie Dario Vidicic. Tottenham drew 0-0 with Aston Villa. However, they went to penalty shootout because it was League Cup action where Claire Hunt started and played the full game while Charlie Grant was a second half substitute. Tottenham then played at the weekend, overcoming Leicester City 2-1. Two goals early in the first half for the Spurs proved too difficult for the Foxes to overcome. Claire Hunt played the full game in the heart of defence, while Charlie Grant was an unused substitute for Spurs. Emily Van Egmond played the full match for the Foxes as an attacking midfielder. Our ladies at Arsenal helped their side to a 1-1 draw with Aston Villa in league action at the weekend. Steph Catley started and played the full game, while Caitlin Ford was introduced in the second half, playing 25 minutes. Kaya Cross was an unused substitute in that one. Now, Chelsea, they absolutely smashed West Ham 4-0 in another Aussie derby. Sam Kerr was a second half substitute for Chelsea, while Ellie Carpenter was an unused substitute. Katrina Gori played 78 minutes in midfield for the Hammers. Now, let's head to Germany, where TSG Hoffenheim defeated a brave Greuther Fürth side in the first round of the Women's German Cup 2-1. Jamila Rankin started the match for Hoffenheim. Hayley Rasso started her first game for Eintracht Frankfurt as they secured a 3-1 victory against Victoria Berlin. Now, let's head to Belgium, where Aoife Colville played the full game for Standard Liège in their 2-0 loss to Genk. And rounding out the women's action in Italy, AS Roma suffered heartbreak in the Serie A Cup final, falling 3-2 to Juventus. To rub salt into the wounds, it was a stoppage time winner scored by Juventus. However, Winona Heatley started and played the full game in defence for Roma. The Serie A women's season kicks off next week, and we look forward to bringing that to you in next week's show. That is it for our ladies. So let's head over to our men, and let's start in the United Kingdom, where in the championship, Nestor Irankunda was busy in his 83 minutes on the pitch for Watford in their 2-1 win against Hull City on the weekend in league action. He won 4 of his 6 ground duels and created a chance in that one to continue his strong form for Watford. Now, Lewis Miller, he played a full game for Blackburn Rovers in their 3-0 loss to Charlton Athletic. Ashley Maynard-Brewer was on the bench for Charlton and was an unused substitute. Cameron Burgess, he played a full game for Swansea City as they drew 1-1 with Millwall. Massimo Luongo, he played in that one and also completed the full 90 minutes for Millwall. Adrian Segacic, he played 62 minutes in Portsmouth's 2-1 loss to Massimo Luongo's former side, Ipswich Town, with Hayden Matthews coming on in stoppage time for the side. Of course, Thomas Waddingham out injured and no Jacob Farrell in the squad for Portsmouth there. Now, let's drop down a tier to League One, but specifically Port Vale, where Joe Gauci started and played the full game in EFL League Cup action. They played Arsenal and went down 2-0. Joe then backed it up on the weekend in League One action, where he kept a clean sheet for Port Vale against Barnsley in a 2-0 victory. So righting the wrongs of midweek action there. Well done, Joe. Now, Rafael Borges Rodriguez played 70 minutes as Wigan Athletic lost 2-0 to Wycombe Wanderers in a league game in midweek. He then came on in the 83rd minute as Wigan Athletic lost 2-0 to Cardiff City at weekend in another league game. All right, let's head up to Scotland, where Martin Boyle scored a penalty in Hibernian's 2-2 draw with Falkirk in midweek league action. Jack Iredale was on the Hibs bench and did not make it onto the field in that one. However, Jack Iredale then helped his Hibs side hold Celtic to a 0-0 draw on the weekend in a bit of an upset there, although they didn't get the 3 points. Quite an achievement holding the high-flying Celtic to a draw there. The defender won 2 of his 3 aerial drills and made 11 clearances. So for those that play Premier League fantasy, he would have got some DEFCON points. There's a little fun fact for you. Martin Boyle, he played 67 minutes for Hibs in that one. Now, Nicholas Milanovic, he played 86 minutes as Aberdeen continued their terrible start to the season in Scotland, losing 2-0 to Dundee United. Kusuni Yengi came on in the 67th minute for Aberdeen, and Nick Suman was on the bench. Whilst for United, Ryan Strain was on the bench, and Zach Sapsford played the whole game up front. The same scenario played out at the weekend in terms of minutes for our Dundee United lads, I should say, except this time they lost 2-0 to Kilmarnock, so a complete reversal there. As for the Aberdeen lads at the weekend, Milanovic was left on the bench along with Nick Suman in their 2-0 loss to Motherwell this time. Kusuni Yengi was not in the matchday squad, unfortunately, so not great signs for Kusuni there at Aberdeen at the moment. However, it was a much better day for our Aussies at Motherwell. Johnny Katumbra scored for Motherwell in his 16 minutes on the pitch. He was teed up by a fellow Aussie. No, it wasn't Oscar Priestman, as he didn't get off the bench, but stay tuned for who it was later in the podcast. There's a little hint for you if you stay till the end. All right. Cameron Devlin was a midfield machine for Hearts in a 3-0 home win against Falkirk in league action. The 27-year-old won 7 of his 9 tackles and made 4 interceptions in a dominant display, which took Hearts to the top of the Scottish Premiership. Can you believe it? Incredible stuff. Tete Yangi, he was a last-minute substitute for Livingston in their dramatic late loss to Rangers, which ended 2-1. Now, let's head to Italy and in Coppa Italian action or Cup action, Alessandro Ciricati came on at halftime of Parma's penalty victory over Spezia. The scores were tied 2-2 at full time, with Parma prevailing 4-3 on penalties, despite Ciricati's penalty being saved. So his blushes were spared there. He then backed it up at the weekend with a full game in Parma's 2-1 win over Torino in league action. So good start to the season for Alessandro, and long may it continue. Now let's head to Germany, where Conor Metcalf came on in the 80th minute as St. Pauli lost 2-1 to Bayer Leverkusen. On the transfer market website, Jackson Irvine is down as having muscular problems, I should say, and listed as an unknown return date in a worrying sign for our midfielder. So we will keep you posted on that one. Hopefully it's nothing too long term. These injuries can snowball, and that would not be very good for our senior midfielder for the Socceroos. Now to Spain, where Matty Ryan played the full game in goal for Levante as they lost 4-1 to Real Madrid in midweek league action. He then backed it up with another full game as his side drew 1-1 with Getafe at the weekend. Now next door to Portugal, where Anthony Carter played 41 minutes for Santa Clara in their 2-1 loss to Tondela. Now to Croatia, where Anthony Kalic played until the 69th minute and was replaced conveniently by Fran Karasic for Hajduk Split as they beat Koprivnica 4-1 in the Croatian Cup. Then at the weekend in league action, Fran Karacic set up Anthony Kalic for Hajduk Split's second goal in a 2-0 win over NK Lokomotiva. Karacic also won both his tackles and made 3 interceptions. Kalic came on in the 60th minute for his side, while Karacic played the whole game, and definitely Kalic was an impact sub, rounding out that game with that second goal. All right, let's head to the Netherlands, where Jordan Boss assisted the winning goal, playing a full game for Feyenoord in a 1-0 win over Groningen. Boss has 3 goal contributions in 7 matches for the league-leading Feyenoord, so congratulations there. Jordan Boss was on the bench for Feyenoord in Europa League action in midweek, if you were wondering as well. Aden Hustic, he provided an assist, and what a lovely through ball it was as he played all of Heracles Alamelo's 3-0 win over Sparta Rotterdam. Now, here's that red card we were talking about earlier. Max Ballard, he was sent off after 71 minutes as NAC Breda lost 2-1 to Ajax Amsterdam. So, unfortunate for Max, he will be ruled out for the next couple of games, but we'll keep you updated on that. Now to Austria, where Noah Botic played 67 minutes and scored his first goal for Austria Wien in their 3-1 win over Rapid Wien in the Vienna derby. Marco Tilio came on in the 66th minute for Rapid Wien in that one. Jacob Italiano, he played the full game for Grazer AK, helping his side keep a clean sheet in a 0-0 draw with Reed. Now to Denmark, where Marcus Eunice was a late sub, getting 5 minutes for Brøndby in their comprehensive 5-1 win over Odense. Now to Norway, where Gianni Stensnes played 67 minutes for Viking in their 2-0 win over Ike Tonsberg, with Nick D'Agostino left out of the matchday squad in that midweek league game. On the weekend, Nick D'Agostino came on in the 57th minute as Viking drew 3-3 with Sarpsborg 08. Gianni Stensnes came on in the 67th minute for his side. Now to Serbia, where Milos Steganek helped TSC Baka Topola keep a clean sheet in a 1-0 win against Novi Pazar. Now to Czechia, or Czech Republic, with Czech Cup action, Garan Quol made his first start for Sparta Prague, playing 80 minutes as his side beat Karlovy Vary 5-0. He then came on in the 80th minute as Sparta Prague beat Banik Ostrava 3-0 in league action on the weekend. How about that for a bit of symmetry in terms of playing 80 minutes and then coming on in the 80th minute for Garan Quol? But good to see him getting some minutes nonetheless. Now, let's head to North America, USA and Canada for MLS action, where Aidan O'Neill played a full game for New York City FC in their heavy 4-0 loss to Inter Miami in midweek league action. He then played 82 minutes in the New York derby, helping his side down New York Red Bulls 3-2 in an epic. Giuseppe Bovalina played 80 minutes of Vancouver Whitecaps 1-1 draw with Portland in league action. That was during midweek. On the weekend, he was on the bench but didn't get any minutes. Kai Rolls, he played all of DC United's heavy loss 6-0 to Philadelphia Union. Patrick Yazbek started and played 57 minutes for Nashville in a 3-1 win against Houston Dynamo in league action. Archie Goodwin was a late sub, playing 3 minutes for Charlotte FC in their 4-1 loss to CF Montreal. And rounding out the action in North America, Ariaf Piol followed in Archie Goodwin's footsteps, getting 3 minutes for Real Salt Lake in their 3-1 win over Austin. And finally, let's stop in Japan, where Thomas Deng played a full game as Yokohama F. Marinos lost 3-1 to Gamba Osaka in midweek league action. Mitch Duke came on in the 75th minute as Makita Zelvia drew 1-1 with Kyoto Sanga in J-League midweek action. He then backed it up by playing the first half of Makita Zelvia's 1-0 win against Fagiano Okayama in league action. All right, that's it for the weekly wrap. Next up is Players of the Week, and we'll wrap up the episode. Stay tuned. All right, Players of the Week time, and it is our Women's Player of the Week. It goes to Daniela Galic, who scored the opening goal in her side Vizio's 3-2 win over Pattaya IF. She then went on to play 76 minutes in the victory. That was her third goal in 6 starts since the Swedish League returned from its mid-season break. So well done, Daniela, and keep up the good form. No doubt she has caught the eyes of Matilda's coach, Joe Montemuro, and might be a bit of a dark horse for that squad. Let's see later in the month. All right, now our men's player of the week. Well, we alluded to this one earlier in the show. It is Apostolos Stamatolopoulos who scored his first goal of the season and contributed an assist for fellow Aussie Johnny Katrumbis in Motherwell's 2-0 win over Aberdeen. There were plenty of goals to pick from this week, some assists as well, but there was only one player who pulled off both, and it was Stammer. So great to see, and let's see if he is picked in Tony Popovic's Socceroos squad, which should be announced later this week. And of course, we will bring that to you in next week's episode. All right, well, that is it for another week of the Aussie Football Passport. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you follow us on social media. We are on X, Facebook, and Instagram, and we will continue to try and share the latest news as it comes to us, as well as sharing some clips of the assists and goals that we've talked about in this episode. Now, if I can get you to leave a review of the show on whatever platform you're listening to this on, it will help people find the podcast. And as a bit of an incentive to leave one, once we get to 10 reviews, I'll look to put together some bonus episodes. So go on, leave that review. You know you want to. All right. Thanks for listening. I'll get out of here and I'll catch you in the next episode. Goodbye for now.